And joining me now is Captain David Marquet, retired former submarine commander and author of Turn the Ship Around. He joins us from Sarasota, Florida. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's get right to those underwater noises and reports of banging sounds. What could this mean?
Yeah, well, that'd be a very encouraging and hopeful sound. If they're still alive inside the submarine, they want to try and transmit their location so that it's easier for their rescue teams to find them and then get them up to the surface. So banging rhythmically, it's a metallic sound, it's a human sound. And so since the oceans are noisy, what we're trying to do is we're listening for all these different sounds on these buoys that the aircraft can drop. And we're trying to distinguish a human-made sound from just the natural whales or wave sounds. And then we triangulate it and then send that information down to a ship on the surface, which then deploys their ROV to go look there. Now we're in a pretty small area, about the size of maybe a football pitch, but it's pitch black. They have cameras with lights, and they're crawling along looking to see if they can find that SUV-sized, minivan-sized submarine on the bottom.
I was just going to ask you more on that. So they could pinpoint it to a much smaller location given those sonar buoys hearing a sound.
Right. So the sonar buoys, they're dropped from the airplane. They look like poster tubes. They go down into the water. They have an antenna. You need more than one because if you just hear a sound from one, you're not sure exactly where it is or how far away. But once you start getting two or three, now you can localize where it is, and then we can send the rover over to that area.
If the sub has lost contact, does that then mean we presume it has lost power?
Yeah, it could be that, but it could be something more pretty simple. A corroded fitting, the antenna broke, the antenna they got close to the wreck of the Titanic and the antenna got snagged. The battery for just the communication device stopped working. So it could be something just affecting the communication device.
And what might they be doing on board to conserve air?
So they have a problem, which is they're using up their oxygen and they're exhaling carbon dioxide. And any body activity, any physical activity, any raising your metabolic rate, raising your heart rate is going to be bad. So you want to do everything you can, calm yourself, assume a meditative state, nap. Only one person perhaps would stay awake. They would be the person assigned to do the banging. They would do it for a while, and then they would take a nap and pass it on to somebody else.
Okay. Let's talk about training and like you said, those methods to conserve air. What type of training do military sub operators receive, and is there any indication that these people on a tourist sub would have received any type of training or similar training?
Yeah, they talk in the company website videos about preparing people and training them. I think the people on this particular trip, they're explorers, they're people who push the edge of the envelope. These people are not naive about what they're getting into, and I don't think they're the kind of people who would easily panic. So I think we have in this case the right people. For the military subs, we have a lot more control over what happens to the submarine. We are operating in much shallower water, so the conditions aren't nearly as bad, and we have the ability to repair equipment in a way that these people don't. They're pretty helpless. They're locked inside, they're bolted in from the outside. They can't even open the hatch. They can't really get to the outside of the submarine and conduct a repair. For example, if their system to get them back up to the surface is malfunctioning, all they can do is from inside the vessel.
And would there be a fail-safe for that system to get them back up to the surface if it's malfunctioning?
Yeah, there are backup systems installed. On one of the shows I was on, someone said there were 7 ways for this vessel to get back up to the surface. They have the propellers, they can drop ballast, they can detach the legs, they can inflate balloons with air. There's a number of systems, but I would guess all of these basically are going to need to be triggered by the crew in some way. And there's not much. If one of those systems doesn't work, you push to release the legs, for example, they don't release. There's not that much you can do inside the submarine to repair that.
Let's talk about finding it if it does come to the surface, or any other means right now to try to find it. That is a very, very vast area, the North Atlantic.
Yeah, so if it's on the surface, then the current's carrying it, and that area kind of expands, and with time it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's much easier to find it on the surface than on the bottom. On the bottom, it's probably more likely to be closer to the Titanic. But once we find it, now what we need is to get a cable all the way down there, connect it to the submarine, and then pull it back up to the surface so we can then open the hatch and let the people out.
Captain David Marquet, retired former submarine commander and author of Turn the Ship Around, we thank you very much for your time.